Welcome to Tokyo Game Life, a Tokyo-based video game podcast focusing on Nintendo and gaming culture in Japan's capital. Your host Mono here. We've now dipped our toes into the 2022 pool. So far, so good. Notable games have already come out and we're all behind in our backlogs 2 weeks into the year. At least we tried. That's what's important. I've been playing some titles I picked up during the New Year's sale that I'll talk about in later episodes, but this episode is a special one. A special Pokemon-themed episode. If you're a Nintendo fan, there's one game that's got most of your attention this month, Pokemon Legends Arceus. Game Freak's follow-up after Sword and Shield is a completely new direction for the series, and one many people have been clamoring for. Hard to believe it's only days away. Nintendo has a ton of major upcoming games this year, so I think it would be fun to do a deep dive into a game before it comes out. There's a lot to be excited about and speculate on, and that's exactly what I want to do. This episode will have a special Pokemon Legends Arceus preview, where we dig into everything. The trailers, the development history, the gameplay structure, the new battle system, Hisui forms, everything. I'll also give some final thoughts on Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. In the very first episode, I gave my impressions after about 5 hours of gameplay. Now that I've completed it and played around in the post-game, I feel like I have a much better idea on how I feel about the game. Diamond and Pearl are some of my favorite games ever, so it's interesting to see how the remake forces me to think about it in a new way. Then we're going all the way back to the 1990s. One of my Christmas presents was a Pocket Pikachu, also known as Pokemon Pikachu in America. It's a virtual pet similar to Tamagotchi, but with Pikachu. I'm really hoping this is the first podcast to have an entire segment analyzing Pocket Pikachu in 2022. This is the content people want. This episode's feature is, yes, Pokemon related. But this time it's completely different as I will have a guest. Japan-based Pokemon card collector Graceon will join me in talking about Pokemon card shopping in Tokyo and Japan. We'll talk about the best shops, navigating lotteries, and of course our favorite Japan-exclusive Pokemon cards. If you want to know where to shop and what to look for when you visit Japan, you won't want to miss it. One of my goals for 2022 is to have more guests share their unique experiences and perspectives on gaming. And I've got a lot of interesting people lined up, so get excited. All right, we've got a lot of Pokemon to talk about, so let's get started. The first thing I want to get into this episode is Pokemon Legends Arceus, Game Freak's upcoming Pokemon title out January 28th. It's the first major Switch game this year and could be a monumental shift for the Pokemon franchise. Or it could just be some spin-off thing they try once and then never again. Either way, it's an incredibly exciting experiment for the series. Switch has a ton of huge game releases this year, so I thought it would be fun to do a preview of some of the bigger ones like Pokemon Legends Arceus. We know quite a bit, but there are still some things we have no idea about, so let's speculate and have fun chatting up this title. Let's go back a bit and look at perhaps the genesis of the project. In an interview with Game Informer in 2017, Junichi Masuda did speak about the concept of a Pokemon game with a level of freedom found in Breath of the Wild. Oh, by the way, get used to me saying Breath of the Wild. Masuda said, "For us, it always comes back to what the most fun way to experience the world and catching Pokemon in that space. Would that be the best way to enjoy the experience? Or would that be more similar to how Pokemon Go is, where it's merged with the real world?" When asked directly whether or not Pokemon could work in a Breath of the Wild style world, Masuda gets more hesitant and says, "Not sure it'd be best suited going out and catching Pokemon. I don't think it would work if we just brought over the current gameplay and put it into that world. We need to have a good, interesting reason for players to be in that kind of environment going around and catching Pokemon." This is a pretty interesting interview to look back on since it really seems that Masuda didn't think Pokemon could work in a Zelda-style world. But it also foreshadows some concepts like the gameplay needing to be changed to fit the world instead of simply implanting the typical Pokemon RPG loop into it. Fast forward to 2018, Eurogamer asked Masuda about the possibility of Pokemon going open world, and Masuda responds, "I always want to be kind of facing new challenges and trying to do new things with Pokemon. You know, it's a different matter whether players will actually enjoy that kind of playstyle, but really, things like setting up the AI so real-world Pokemon appear, or different ways to appreciate the game. I'm always kind of thinking how to approach the Pokemon series from a different aspect, so in that sense, it's still on the cards." Again, a very vague and kind of nothing answer. Sword and Shield were your typical Pokemon RPGs, But one feature that stuck out was the Wild Area, a 3D space that gave you more camera control and introduced open exploration when compared to the more linear routes. It's clear that Game Freak understood the demand from fans for an open world type of game, and I'm sure the developers were also very inspired by Breath of the Wild. I mean, look at the name, Wild Area. They knew what they were doing. It seemed that Game Freak might not make a full Breath of the Wild style Pokemon, but they weren't hesitant about lifting ideas from it. Pokemon Legends Arceus was announced in late February 2021 on Pokemon Day, along with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I remember the name and blurry photos were actually leaked a few hours before the presentation, and it was pretty shocking to me to see Game Freak give us what we wanted, an open-world Pokemon game. Or so we thought. Open world and, well, a Pokemon MMO are the two types of games Pokemon fans have been begging for. Alright, let's look at what the game actually is. Although it's endlessly compared to Breath of the Wild, it is actually not an open world game in the sense that there is one continuous world that you explore and you can go anywhere. Many people are calling it a monster hunter in that you have a central hub where you accept missions and then depart out into the world. Instead of one large area, it seems to be several openish areas. It looks like there's a beach area, a snow area, an autumn area, and so on. A lot of people seem disappointed by this fact, but I feel the structure can work. Monster Hunter Stories 2 is very similar in that there are segmented parts of the world with one town and a huge open area to explore. All these areas felt unique in some way, and that core gameplay loop was so addictive that I never felt like it dragged. If the core gameplay components of Arceus are solid and each area isn't redundant, I think it can still succeed in giving the same feeling of awe during exploration despite it not being exactly like Breath of the Wild. Catching Pokemon seems to be the major gameplay element, even more so than the main games. You are tasked with creating the first Pokedex, but didn't Oak already do that? This is a very Zelda type of situation where they keep resetting what actually the first Zelda game is. In a long enough timeline, there will be a game before Skyward Sword. Anyways, many of the gameplay mechanics are all centered around catching Pokemon in the field. You scavenge for items to craft Pokeballs and other items to assist capture, and you even have some action-oriented options like a roll and crouch walking to sneak up on Pokemon. Of course, battling seems to be an important aspect as well, but we have seen many videos of the player just throwing a Pokeball and immediately capturing a Pokemon. A major part of the gameplay seems to be capturing the same Pokemon multiple times. The more you capture it, more information is filled out in the Pokedex. In a screenshot that shows the research tasks, it seems that you may need to capture a single Pokemon 15 times to max out its page. There are other requirements like observing it use a certain move, like Bite, or times you've defeated it. In the main games, you see a Bidoof, you capture it, boom, done. You never have to interact with that Bidoof again. But Arceus looks like the opposite, where you will need to interact with the same Pokemon many times over. I fear this is going to be repetitive or frustrating for some Pokemon that are incredibly hard to find. I think it's possible that the first time you encounter it, you fight it, but the other times you can just catch it. Or perhaps it's optional. Like, does anyone want to battle and catch 15 Wurmples? It might be appealing in a turn your brain off type of way, a podcast game, but I am very curious to see how they keep the experience fresh from the first time you catch a Shinx to the 10th time. When it comes to Pokemon, I am more of a collector for sure. I am a very gotta catch 'em all type of person. A game where catching as the primary focus is really exciting to me. We've seen some ways how catching is diversified, like having to sneak up on a Pokemon or use lures to distract them. I hope we get some more interesting capture options, like setting traps or using the environment in unique ways. But since a big part of gameplay is capturing Pokemon multiple times, I don't think it will get too complex. Though maybe the first time you catch them, it might be hard, and the subsequent times are almost instant. I guess this would be a good time to talk about the battles. The ones in Pokemon Legends Arceus maintain the traditional turn-based structure where each Pokemon has 4 moves, but they've added some exciting new elements. For one, there's actually a turn order displayed where a Pokemon might get more than one turn in a row. This really reminds me of Final Fantasy X or Shin Megami Tensei, so it's a bit odd to see it in Pokemon. The official website says that the Pokemon stats affect this, but it's not really explained how. Maybe some items also affect the turn order. I can see status effects playing a major role in this. In normal Pokemon games, paralysis cuts the speed of a Pokemon in half, but maybe in Arceus, the unparalyzed Pokemon will be able to go twice in a row, for example. I think affecting the turn order could be an interesting element that gives battles a new strategy. Attacks also have 2 styles, agile and strong. Depending on which one you use, it might result in a completely different attack or additional effect. They also affect the turn order. If you use an agile attack, you might get some buff that lets you go twice, or a strong attack reduces your turns for one bigger hit. Since the game doesn't have any online battles and no competitive framework, I'm excited to see what they do with the battle system in a completely PvE environment. The interesting thing about Pokemon battles is that typically they are on an even playing field. Since you can catch all the Pokemon, they can't really make one too powerful, unlike in a typical RPG, where your party members might have 1000 HP, but the boss has 100,000 HP. Even in trainer battles, the trainers aren't going to throw out 10 Pokemon that are level 200 because they operate within the same rules of the game. Arceus has Noble Pokemon and Alpha Pokemon, which seem to be much more stronger versions than typical wild Pokemon, so that could lead to some exciting boss battles that we've never seen before in this series. Let's look at some story aspects. Pokemon has always been light on the actual story, but I always felt like they consistently have memorable and well-realized worlds. Sinnoh perhaps being one of the best regions in Pokemon for how distinct yet cohesive it is as a whole. Arceus takes place in Hisui, aka the Sinnoh of old. Hisui means jade in Japanese, by the way, a fact I know because there is a nice tea room in Tokyo with that name. Calling it a different name is really cool in my mind, since many Japanese cities and regions have completely different names in ancient times. Tokyo was Edo until 1868. Sinnoh is based on Hokkaido, which was known as Azochi until the late 1800s. So I think giving it a different name is actually quite clever. Sinnoh is a logical choice for the setting of a Pokemon game in the past. Johto seems obvious considering it is based on Kansai, with Kyoto being the ancient capital, and all the traditional settings in Johto, but the Sinnoh region is one that is really based on ancient myths and legends. You basically have a creator myth centered around the region. It doesn't get much bigger than that. Sword and Shield had what? Dogs? Dogs that fought an alien? You know what's more impressive than that? Creating a universe. And like I said before, Sinnoh is based on Hokkaido, which was sparsely populated in the 19th century, so it's a good excuse to have huge open areas with little human involvement. Arceus is set before the establishment of towns we know and love in Sinnoh, with the main settlement being Jubilife Village, the precursor to Jubilife City. It's the biggest city in modern-day Sinnoh, so it makes sense that it would be the first. Ironically, there are more things to do here than in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. This is where you get missions, change your clothing, craft items, manage your Pokemon, everything. It's quite lively and seems to expand throughout the game. You also have your own lodging, which I hope you can decorate. I had a galaxy brain thought that I posted on Twitter. Since there are no Nintendo consoles in your room since it takes place in the past, what can you have? Hanafuda, a Nintendo, though then Marufuku, set of Hanafuda cards. They actually do sell Pokemon Hanafuda cards to this day, so just use that design. This idea is so good that if it's not in the game, going to be a bit disappointed. The predominant landmark in Jubilife Village is the HQ for the Galaxy Expedition Team, the research group sending you out on missions. There are some familiar looking folks here, as they are the ancestors of modern day characters. Commander Kamado is the ancestor of Professor Rowan, for example, and many other characters seem to look very similar to the modern day Pokemon characters. I suppose the standout is Silene, who, yes, looks like a female version of Cyrus. The fact that you are working for Team Galaxy is also a pretty interesting twist. They're obviously the baddies in Diamond and Pearl, so will something happen in the game where it's revealed that we've been working for the bad guys the whole time? Or will Silene have a heel turn at the end and nab Arceus for herself? Team Galaxy in Diamond and Pearl is pretty unusual. I mean, they seem to be an actual organization with multiple bases of operation and multiple buildings, but they're blatant criminals. Maybe it will be explained that Team Galaxy has its roots as a legitimate organization that eventually turned evil. Arceus definitely has an opportunity to outright retcon or at least explain some things. Cyrus's plan in Diamond and Pearl was very straightforward yet weird. Oh, I'm going to capture these 3 Pokemon, make a red chain, then use that to capture another Pokemon, and then create a new universe. What? The mechanics of how that works is never really explained. He just knows all this info and then carries out his plan. I'm not saying we need some huge lore dump on the red chain, but there might be some advantage to fleshing out the backstory of Sinnoh. Another interesting story element are the Diamond and Pearl clans, who worship an entity called Sinnoh, yet have different opinions on what it is. The Diamond clan thinks it's Dialga, Pearl thinks it's Palkia. Boy, they're in for a surprise when they learn it's Arceus. Since Sinnoh has so many legendaries, I was hoping that a lot of the story or quest would be centered around them, but it seems some mythicals like Darkrai and Shaman aren't part of the story and instead just bonuses, which is a bit disappointing. I mean, you could have a whole Darkrai subquest that would be really cool, since it's merely hinted at in Diamond and Pearl. I have to wonder if there are other settlements in the game. There are base camps in the field, and the Ginkgo Guild is a merchant group that also seems to have outposts. Looking at the map, there might be some smaller populated areas. It's pretty hard to tell, but I imagine we aren't the only person out in the field. Also, looking at the map, it seems Jubilife Village is where Canalave City is, on the west part of the map near the sea. I don't expect the map to be completely faithful to the modern Sinnoh, since you need to change some things up for gameplay purposes, but I expect we visit areas that turn into notable locations in the modern games. There are quite a few ruins in modern-day Sinnoh, so I can see us revisiting them in the past. On the map, you can clearly see the Snow Point ruins, so it will be neat to see all these ruins perhaps in their glory, or at least a bit less dilapidated. Something tells me we will pop by Spear Pillar again. Let's wrap up the preview with the most important element, the Pokemon. Although this isn't one of the core RPGs, they've introduced some new ones. Weirdeer is an evolution of Stantor, Basculegion is an evolved Basculan, and Cleaver is an alternate Scyther evolution. Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of these regional-only evolutions, since they make obtaining them in the future kind of cumbersome. Imagine if Weevil was a regional evolution of Sneasel, and that you couldn't get it in every game after Diamond and Pearl. Weirdeer does look pretty nice, and Stantler is fairly forgettable, even though it's based on a reindeer, which is one of the cooler real-life animals. I think we will have a few more regional evolutions. These are a bit hard to predict. I mean, who predicted a Stantler evolution? But if I'm just going to guess, how about a Dunsparce evolution? Why not? Predictions for Hisuian versions of the starter evolutions. Decidueye will be a grass psychic Pokemon based on Kyudo, which is Japanese archery. Expect a big bow. Typhlosion? I can see it being a Fire Dark Ninja, or maybe fire fighting, like a sumo wrestler. Everyone loves firefighting, right? Samurai is already a samurai, but I think they could take the concept even further and maybe give it a unique weapon like a spear. Water Steel is a bit too conventional. Maybe Water Rock? There are some Hisuian forms of other Pokemon. Voltorb, the Zorua line, Bravery, and Growlithe all have new versions. Growlithe looks adorable, and I'm getting Mega Ampharos vibes from that mane. The bar is set very high for Hisuian Arcanine. There's been a lot of talk about the graphics. To me, it looks both good and kinda bad at the same time. I can see what art style they're going for. It has a nice cohesive color palette, and it's inspired by calligraphy and yeah, Breath of the Wild. It's hard to tell if they pull it off or not without getting my hands on it. I thought a lot of the preview screenshots in Breath of the Wild also looked a bit bad with blurry textures, but the game was often beautiful and awe-inspiring. I don't think Arceus will reach those heights, but it could still impress me if the art style establishes an engrossing atmosphere. Nintendo recently released a 13-minute preview, so I recommend checking that out. It got me very excited for the game, and hopefully it lives up to my expectations. Honestly, my expectations are kind of in flux though. This could be a solid spin-off, a good old 8 out of 10, or maybe this is a revelation and a masterpiece, Game of the Year. Game Freak has a lot to prove, and we'll know if they've nailed it in just 2 weeks. Okay, we talked about the Sinnoh of the past. Now let's talk about the Sinnoh of, I suppose, 2006. I talked about it quite a bit when it came out, having dedicated about 5 or so hours into the game, and I was enjoying it at the time. Now that I've rolled credits, I've got a clear picture of my overall thoughts on not just the remake, but also the original DS games, the future of Pokemon remakes, and maybe even the very nature of the universe. Well, maybe not that last one. Diamond and Pearl are some of my favorite games of all time. Now keep in mind, I've been playing Pokemon since Gen 1. It's not your first Pokemon is your favorite type of situation. I would say the combo of Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, and Heart Gold, Soul Silver, which I think are the best Pokemon games, make Gen 4 overall the best Pokemon generation. The Pokemon fanbase is pretty fragmented in terms of what's the best, what's the worst, but I would say that my opinion is not an uncommon one. The DS games introduced a lot of important elements of Pokemon that dominated the game for about a decade, such as the dual screen setup and features that are still present today, like of course the online capability. So expectations for a possible Gen 4 remake were pretty high considering their overall importance to the franchise. Imaginations ran wild. Would Let's Go be the framework for Pokemon RPG remakes going forward? Those games were successful, but not as much as other Pokemon remakes, and didn't really seem to grab the Pokemon Go audience. Would the remakes be built on the Gen 8 engine? They would have to make some major changes to the overworld to accommodate this, and maybe some areas would be turned into more of a wild area-esque locale. The answer? A completely different type of game that is far more faithful to the original DS games than anyone imagined. This has led to my main quandary. Are these good remakes? And is a bad remake of a good game still good? Is this the definitive Gen 4 experience? I really enjoyed BDSP, but I do feel that a lot of my passion for this title stems from the structure and feature set of the original games and not because of the additions. In fact, some subtractions do hurt the game. We gotta mention it. There's no GTS. This was one of the biggest features of Diamond and Pearl, and it's gone. I'm not a fan at all of the decision to strip the GTS from the main games and put it on the Pokemon Home app. I mean, it is technically impressive that I can trade with my phone, but does anyone actually prefer this? When I'm in the mood to trade Pokemon, that's when I'm sitting down playing Pokemon. I have a Stunky, I want to trade it for a Glameow. I should be able to put it on the GTS in the game and ask for a Glameow, or search for a Glameow and see if anyone is offering it for a reasonable price. Once I've used the GTS, I get the Pokemon, it goes into my box, I get the Pokedex data, boom, done. Why do I need to first transfer that Stunky to Pokemon Home, then put it on the GTS through my phone, then once I get the Glameow, I gotta transfer it from home back into the game? Why all these extra steps? It especially hurts in BDSP in that when you try to go to the global trade station, some guy just turns you away like a stray dog. The GTS was my hangout, man. So many times when I booted up Pokemon Diamond on my DS, I was right in front of the GTS. Now I'm not even allowed here? You're going to call the cops if I come any closer? The GTS is apparently replaced by the Global Wonder Station, which presumably allows Wonder Trades, but it's not even implemented into the game yet. I think having Wonder Trades already in the game from the start would have spiced things up a bit and differentiated the game from the originals in some way. The lack of a GTS is a major strike against the remakes in my mind. In terms of reinterpreting the other Gen 4 exclusive features, I feel BDSP does a mostly good job. The Underground became the Grand Underground, and honestly, it's better than ever. Ironically, when they stripped out one of the major online features in the GTS, making the online experience much smoother for the Underground is a welcome change. The online features here are pretty passive, but still fun. Filling up that daylit bar to give everyone a brief shiny or rare item boost is addictive. The minigame is just pure, simple fun. I like hitting things, I like the sound effects, I like suddenly finding some new item. That gameplay loop just hooks me, even though it's so basic. I don't even care what I get. It's just fun to dig. The biggest addition to the Underground are grottos with Pokemon roaming around. The main game reverts back to the old shuffle around in the grass to find Pokemon, but you can see them on the field in the grottos, which is an interesting choice. These grotto Pokemon sometimes can't be discovered above ground until post-game, or you can access them much faster here. The Pokemon are also at quite high levels, so if you can grab one for your team, you definitely have a major player. I was able to grab Togepi pretty early in the game, which was pretty neat. Once you beat the game, the grottos repopulate with a ton of new rare Pokemon. Another thing that pops up when you beat the game is Raminas Park, replacing Pal Park. If you find special slabs in the Underground, which cleverly look like old GBA cards, you will be able to use them to battle legendary Pokemon from the older games. I like how they incorporated the Underground into this feature as well. Oh, I gotta go to the Underground to get something? No problem. I'm already down here anyways. It's always interesting to see how they implement legendaries that weren't in the games into the remakes or third versions. In Oris, you had Hoopa making portals. In Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, you had interdimensional wackiness. I did like in Heart Gold, Soul Silver how they were more naturally integrated into the world, but once you have dozens of legendaries, it's hard to replicate that. Obviously, you should go for the Regis first so you can get Regigigas later. They even put the little Regicave front and center. Although it makes perfect sense to give you a chance to get the Regis in the game, I do miss that feeling I had in Diamond, where the only way to get Regigigas was to transfer your old Regis from the Gen 3 games. It felt like an exclusive club, but they just give out legendaries like candy these days. Between Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, you can actually get all 493 Pokemon. Well, not the mythicals, I suppose, but they don't count. Otherwise, all the Pokemon from the first 4 gens are in the game through the National Dex, Raminas Park, Pokeradar, and the Underground. I already have all these Pokemon in home, but what if I got them again? It is tempting just to get as many as possible without relying on my past games, and I love how this remake really opens up the floodgates in post-game regarding which Pokemon you can obtain. The pop-ins and contest changes are fine with me. I really got into the contests in Gen 3 and Gen 4, but now they are kind of just a novelty. I always like how they keep incorporating new ways to interact with Pokemon that go beyond fighting though. My favorite of course is the minigames in XY. Oh, and Amity Square is back with the bonus of having Pokemon follow you around. This is awesome of course, but it gets very clunky in the overworld where you are constantly bumping into your Pokemon. The world was clearly not designed to have a buddy follow you, or 8-directional movement. There's definitely a lot of random crashing into walls and getting stuck on ledges that the first game didn't have. Someone brought it to my attention that a lot of the areas in Oris were actually redesigned to be much wider to accommodate the difference between moving around on the D-pad and moving around with the joystick, but no such work was done in BDSP. The overworld really is a pixel-by-pixel remake. Well, the game doesn't use pixels, but you know what I mean. Every inch is largely the same. So as a remake, it doesn't really revolutionize the original game in any way. Some things are notably better, some things are actively worse, but I keep getting drawn into the game, And the reason for that is that the core Diamond and Pearl experience is just so good. Sinnoh is an incredibly realized world and one of the best in Pokemon. Exploring it again, I understood how unique pretty much every area in the game is. Every town has its own theme or unique activities. You've got a mining town with the museum that can revive your fossils. You've got a nice little area with flowers. One city is just a big swamp with a safari zone. Another has solar panels running through it and a sticker shop. These are so creative and visually distinct. It's a far cry from other JRPGs that are just, here's the forest town, here's the ice town, here's the fire town, and every building's function is exactly the same. A thing I love about Pokemon is how it draws from real-life inspirations, including Japan. Sinnoh is based on Hokkaido, the northernmost island of the main Japanese islands. It's a massive region known for its natural beauty, and it's reflected wonderfully in the game. In 2020, I took a short trip to Hokkaido, and now traveling back to Sinnoh, I was amazed to see how many areas are faithful recreations of places I visited on my trip. In the game, Florama Town is a small little village with fields of colorful flowers, and yes, there is a place just like that in Hokkaido. The Bie and Furano areas are well known for their beautiful flower fields, and although the town in the game is much smaller, it does convey that same feeling. Canal Lave City is based on Otaru, which, yes, has a huge river running down it, and you can even ride boats down the river. I think it's so cool that a little tourist town in Hokkaido is the inspiration for a place in a game that sells millions of copies worldwide. Nintendo in general is so good with drawing from Japanese art, culture, and history and presenting it in an appealing way to everyone. Sinnoh is also far more open than a lot of recent Pokemon games. I would argue that it is the last Pokemon region to be structured this way. Ever since Black and White, you really just go in a loop, or in a straight line, or on some very linear path. Here, your next destination is a bit more unpredictable. You absolutely can do the 4th gym before the 3rd one. Once you get to Hearthome, it asks you to go to Veilstone, but no, you can just go a completely different direction, make it all the way to Pastoria City and do the 4th gym, grab some new Pokemon in the Safari Zone, and then go up to Veilstone instead of going west from Hearthome. There are many other examples like this in regards to optional smaller areas. I feel like places like the Solacian Ruins, completely optional areas that house some unique Pokemon, really don't exist in the recent games. These small little side areas add so much character to the world and make exploring worthwhile. I mean, the old chateau, it's so small yet memorable with great rewards. Sinnoh as a whole feels like a huge world with tons of little secrets. The emphasis on myths and legends give the region a lot of character as an ancient place with an important history. This isn't really expanded a whole lot in the game, but it does contribute to the overall atmosphere. I think the game is just paced wonderfully. It's never a slog, it always introduces new features or places to explore, and it doesn't feel generic or a retread, despite there being 3 Pokemon games before this one. It's a Pokemon game, so yeah, it's pretty easy, but at least trainers actually have more than 2 Pokemon the majority of the time. The Elite Four, though? Man, that's a toughie, isn't it? I think the Elite Four is ironically kind of a hodgepodge. I mean, the Fire Guy has 1 Fire Pokemon, Mr. Mime shows up for some reason. The first trainer is a Bugmaster who's wearing a sleeveless shirt. However, they are deceptively challenging. It's certainly a difficulty spike considering how much of a pushover the rest of the game is. And man, Cynthia. Years later, she still lives up to her reputation. I did beat her in one go, but it wasn't easy. It took some strategy and some prayers. I love that she just leads off with Spiritomb, a Pokemon you haven't seen the entire game and has no weaknesses. Great battle overall, the hardest one I've had in a long time. I'll say it, BDSP is my favorite Pokemon RPG on the Switch. It does feel like comfort food in a way. It's just classic Pokemon. To me, a lot changed after Black and White, and while I still love the series, this gen was probably the peak in terms of quality. Is it my dream Gen 4 remake? Not by a long shot, and it messes up some things that made the original great. But the core Pokemon game is still so solid after many years. It's always a bit scary to go back to one of your favorite games years later. You might think, oh, was it really that good? And honestly, yes. Diamond and Pearl still hold up wonderfully, and I don't think it's aged poorly at all. I think it's safe to say that Ilka will be handling the Black and White remakes. I expect it to be very similar to BDSP in that it's incredibly faithful to the original, while adding a bit of spice to some gameplay features and maybe botching a thing or two. It wouldn't be a Pokemon game without something weird. Okay, we went back to the 2000s with Diamond and Pearl, but we need to go back even further, back to the 90s. On Christmas, I got a lot of amazing presents I didn't deserve. One of them was a Pocket Pikachu, also known as a Pokemon Pikachu in the West. It's a virtual pet like Tamagotchi or Digimon, but with Pikachu. Can I just say that Pocket Pikachu is clearly a way better name? It tells you everything you need to know. It's Pikachu, and it goes in your pocket. Pokemon Pikachu could be anything. Also, it's much harder to Google, though I'm not sure how many people were using Google in 1998. If you weren't a kid in the 90s, I think you likely have no idea how massive virtual pets were. Tamagotchi and its ilk were one of the many toy fads of the 90s. I think Tamagotchi are still fairly popular today. I mean, they still seem to make them and often have weird collaborations. Like, there are Evangelion Tamagotchis. I definitely feel like Bandai Namco, who makes these things, are making a major nostalgia play and trying to get the audience they had in the 90s. In Japan, there's no shortage of cute keychains or stuffed animals on people's bags, but I rarely see any virtual pet. As a kid, I never had a Tamagotchi, but I did have a Digimon. It was fun for what it was. It required a lot of maintenance for sure. I mean, the appeal of cleaning up monster bodily waste is not exactly my idea of fun. You could connect them with each other and have little battles. That interconnectivity was pretty neat. Tamagotchi came out in 1996, the same year as Pokemon in Japan. It truly was Monster Mania. So it makes a lot of sense that Nintendo saw Tamagotchi and Digimon and thought, let's get in on this. In pure Nintendo fashion, they didn't merely just copy Tamagotchi or Digimon, and instead came up with their own thing. Pocket Pikachu is significantly simpler than a Tamagotchi, but also sort of ahead of its time in terms of what people want from these types of toys. Pocket Pikachu is a virtual pet, but you don't really take care of Pikachu. There's no feeding, there's no cleaning, and no, Pikachu can't die. It's really just a fancy pedometer. You can think of it as the predecessor to the Pokewalker, which came with Heart Gold and Soul Silver, or even Pikmin Bloom. It is trying to make exercise fun, something Nintendo has done many times throughout the years. Is Pocket Pikachu the secret prequel to Ring Fit? Maybe. The main premise of the game is that you walk with Pikachu, and then those steps are converted into watts, which you then gift to Pikachu. It's not a one-to-one conversion. I've seen that it takes 7 steps to make 1 watt, another source says 20, another 30. The point is, it can take longer than you expect to gather up the watts. Keep giving watts, and Pikachu will get happier and happier, which unlocks new animations. And that's it. You walk to get watts so you can unlock new animations. The screen is your typical Game Boy style black and white, and the overall design of the device clearly invokes the Game Boy. Unlike a lot of other virtual pets, it has a D-pad, which is used to navigate the menu. As a pet, I'm sure it will turn a lot of people off since the interactivity is incredibly low. But for me, as somebody who doesn't want to check it every 30 minutes, it's a fun novelty. I like the cute little 8-bit animations. There are quite a lot of them, and they're very time-specific. Turn it on at night and Pikachu might be showering or sleeping. At lunch, you can see him eating food. I've seen him read a book and watch TV, a lot of silly things like that. It is difficult to consistently keep it happy. You have to get quite a few watts or else your friendship level will drop. Pikachu strongly prefers gifts of 100 plus watts at a time, so that's at least a few thousand steps. Also, considering that this is a pedometer made in the 90s, it's not exactly accurate as you would like it to be. It's designed to be attached to your belt or clothing, but if you just put it in your coat pocket and walk, it definitely won't get as many watts as it should. I guess Nintendo wants to make it a bit harder to maintain Pikachu's happiness, so you will actually get out of the house and walk. However, you can definitely game it by just shaking the device. There are actually some animations that you can only discover by shaking it. So if you don't plan on leaving the house, feel free to just violently shake it. There are some extra features though. There's an alarm clock, always need one of those. I was upset when they took out the alarm clock in the 3DS because my DS was my backup alarm clock for years, and it definitely saved me more than a few times. There's also a slot machine where you can gamble 5 watts at a time to get more. I am not sure if the timing matters or if it's completely random, but it's fun to try if you've got a couple of watts left over. I noted that I got it as a gift, but not only that, it was gifted to me in the original box. The box design is really amazing. It has some original art in that classic 90s Sugimori style, and the little preview window is shaped like a Pikachu. The instruction manual also has a fun design with some nice artwork. Sorry to say, I tried to preserve the box, but it did get slightly ripped when I opened it. That 90s cardboard just doesn't hold up as much as you would like it to. Also, I discovered that the original Japanese website for it is still being hosted by Nintendo. I tweeted it out, so check my Twitter account at Tokyo Game Life to see more. I suppose I should note they did make a sequel to this. Pokemon Pikachu 2 GS. It's called Pocket Pikachu Color Gold and Silver Together in Japan. Again, a better name than the US. This time there is a full color display and the device has a sleeker silver design instead of the bright Pikachu yellow. It also has infrared capability, so you can do the mystery gift function with gold and silver. Apparently, Pikachu requires even less maintenance this time, so it won't get angry or become unfriendly. Outside of Pikachu, Nintendo did dabble a bit into other properties. They made a Pocket Hello Kitty that is very similar to Pocket Pikachu. It was only in Japan though. Look it up, it even has the Nintendo logo prominently displayed on the box. It's certainly a weird oddity. Also, Nintendo had some hand in the Pocket Sakura, a virtual pet game based on the Sakura War series. Now, obviously at the time, Nintendo and Sega were hardware rivals, but Jupiter did develop a virtual pet Sakura that ended up being published by Media Factory based on the Pocket Pikachu hardware. It has some capability with Sakura Wars GB, which was actually the first Sega game on Nintendo hardware. Pocket Pikachu is a fun novelty for sure. It's something like my Mario Game & Watch to put on a shelf and fiddle with every now and then. I'm surprised Nintendo hasn't tried to bring it back as a holiday stocking stuffer like they did with the Game & Watch. You could have a Pocket Mario, Pocket Link. Definitely hardcore Nintendo nerds would check them out. Okay, let's get away from the 90s and return back to 2022 and look at some news. News time. This year just started, but there are already some fun things to talk about. The talk of Nintendo Twitter recently is Mario Kart 9. According to consultant Serkin Toto of Kantan Games, Mario Kart 9 is in active development and will have a, quote, new twist. Now, there's no shortage of quote-unquote Nintendo insiders, including people who blatantly make things up, but Toto actually has connections. He's not someone who just tries to predict upcoming game releases. Granted, Mario Kart 9 in development, not exactly a shocking revelation. The huge franchises like Super Mario, Zelda, Mario Kart, Pokemon, and so on are always in some stage of development. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe came out 5 years ago, and the Wii U version is 8 years old. So it goes without saying that they've had quite a bit of time to think about the future of the series. We have seen experiments with Mario Kart Live and Tour, so it's not like the franchise has been completely dormant for years. Oh, and yeah, Mario Kart 8 is still the best-selling Switch game and sells millions every year. It makes perfect sense why Nintendo hasn't developed a direct sequel to MK8 considering it keeps selling. Mario Kart 9 would sell a lot, of course, but it's clear Nintendo wants to focus on other franchises to build them up and diversify the Switch's library. Mario Kart has proven to be an incredibly strong system seller, so holding off Mario Kart 9 for the Switch successor seems logical. I've heard some theories that it might be cross-gen with Switch and the new Switch, but I feel that would cut into the new hardware's momentum. They did it for Zelda, twice actually, but in both cases the new hardware was very different from the predecessor, while I can see the next Nintendo console being very iterative. Mario Kart 9, exclusive to the new hardware, is a strong selling point. The new twist? I mean, don't all Mario Kart games have a twist? You are literally twisting around the tracks in MK8. We've had double drivers, we've even had Nintendo say, you know what, bikes. These are pretty big twists, are they not? A lot of people are begging for a Nintendo Kart with characters from a variety of franchises. I like the non-Mario additions to Mario Kart. Those franchises are well represented in the game, but Nintendo Kart is not Smash. Is the announcement of Shulk in Mario Kart going to be a bigger announcement than, say, Bayonetta in Smash? The Mario Kart characters are really just a single stat, with some of them being exactly the same. You could introduce racer-specific abilities, but I fear that complicating Mario Kart anymore might lessen the appeal. For me, the go-to of course is Diddy Kong Racing, with its multiple types of vehicles that suit different terrain, or a Sonic Racing's Transformed, where it changes. Nintendo really isn't a copycat in terms of Mario Kart though, so I expect whatever the new gimmick is will be something we won't see coming. Kirby and the Forgotten Land got a date and a new trailer. It will hit March 25th, right before the end of the fiscal year. March is going to be a very busy one with Triangle Strategy and Kirby. But both games are pretty different, so they would be good palate cleansers for each other. The gameplay video shed more light on the structure of the game. Did you know Kirby can absorb enemies and take its powers? A new power is a gun. I feel like Kirby has gotten access to an increasingly scary number of guns, both in his series and in Smash. While the original trailer was framed as more of an open world experience, it really seems like it's not that at all. It gave me major 3D world vibes, though there does seem to be some fairly open areas with hidden secrets, and it looks less linear than a typical 3D world level. The plot involves you saving Waddle Dees from the Beast Pack, and yes, Meta Knight wants to fight you because why not? There also seems to be a village that gradually grows as you rescue more and more Waddle Dees. And there is a bit of co-op as well, with Waddle Dee serving as player 2. Kirby is typically good about integrating multiplayer into the main adventure, so I'm excited to see what the Forgotten Land has. I think it looks stellar thus far, and may be enough of a departure from your typical Kirby game, so it could grab new fans. Kirby is an interesting series for Nintendo in that there really isn't some canonical masterpiece. With Mario, of course, you have 3, World, 64, Galaxy, games that people declare the best of all time. Zelda has Link to the Past, Ocarina, and now Breath of the Wild. Even Metroid has Super Metroid, which definitely ranks highly on many greatest games of all time lists. But Kirby? He has a lot of 8s, some 9s, but not really any 10s. Maybe this one will break through to the mainstream and become the best-selling Kirby yet. Star Allies, which got okay reviews, still sold absurdly well. Even the quiet Kirby games still sell about 2 million or so. Therefore, Forgotten Land is poised to maybe break even 5 million. Sega is opening up a Sapporo studio headed by Takaya Sagawa. Sagawa has been with Sega since the 90s and has worked on many games. Recently, he's been focusing on PSO2, but I don't want to bury the lead. He worked on Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. There's been quite a bit of news regarding Sega investing a lot of money into expanding their game development capabilities, so we could see a major change in their output within a few years. Sapporo is an interesting place to open a studio. I'm trying to think of other Sapporo-based studios, but there aren't many. There's Hand, which does mostly support work, but it has been involved with some big titles, like Neo The World Ends With You and Dragon Ball Kakarot. They've had their hands, no pun intended, in several other Namco and Square Enix titles. Kyushu is a hotspot for a lot of tech companies and startups, so maybe Sapporo is going to follow suit. Great food. I can't blame anyone for wanting to move there. Street Fighter has recently shown off their 35th anniversary logo. 35 is a really random anniversary, to be honest. It should be 20 or 25 and then 50. They didn't make a logo for nothing, so they might have something to announce soon. There is going to be a Street Fighter exhibit this spring in Tokyo, so I would definitely check that out. They already released the Street Fighter collection during their 30th anniversary, so I'm not sure if they would try to dig up some other older titles and re-release them. Though Capcom vs. SNK 2, day one for me. Just name your price. And SNK just released Card Fighters Clash. A Street Fighter 6 announcement has to come sooner than later. SF5 turned 6 this year. That's a bit long in the tooth for any title. Or just give us Capcom vs. SNK 3. Oh, and everyone, play Card Fighters Clash. Parco Shibuya, home of the Nintendo Tokyo Store and many other cool shops, recently hosted a Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl pop-up shop called Burishai Festival. Now, I was racking my brain over this name. What could Burishai possibly mean? It's not Sinnoh in Japanese. Is it a Pokemon? Maybe it could be... Oh, actually, it's just Brilliant and Shining. Brillanto and Shiningu. Burishai. I thought about maybe making this a feature, but really it was pretty small, so I thought I'd just include it into the news. Think of this as a mini feature. The pop-up shop was on the ground floor of Parco Shibuya, which by the way is decked out with Arceus ads. Check my Twitter for some photos. The shop is incredibly small, so only a few people could enter at a time. I lined up for about a few minutes. It is very photo-friendly. The back half of the store is dedicated to some giant nanoblock creations of Sinnoh Pokemon like Garchomp and Lucario, and the front sells Sinnoh-themed snacks and goods. The most striking were the giant cookies based on B-Side, a company that prints these really cool-looking Pokemon stickers. I bought Turtwig, and let me tell you, this was the most expensive cookie I have ever purchased. I mean, it tasted great, and it makes for a wonderful photo, but it's not something I would buy again. They also sold sugar candy based on the underground gyms, but a box was $30. It looks cool, but you know what's also cool? $30. It was fun to walk around and take photos of it. It's on my Twitter and Instagram, so check it out there. A bit more Pokemon news. The newest TCG expansion, Star Birth, was released this past weekend in Japan. It features Sinnoh Pokemon, so if you want a really awesome looking Arceus card, now is your chance. It also introduces V-Star, special Pokemon that have an attack that can only be used once per game. It's like a Z-move, but with V. I was actually able to walk into a store day one and grab a couple of packs. I'll probably open them on Instagram, so check out what I got on my account. My guest, Graceon, is more of a Pokemon card expert than I am, so just hold on a bit and she'll explain all about Japanese Pokemon cards. Let's end with Japanese sales this time. The 2021 final hardware and software sales are in. Switch sold about 5.5 million in Japan for 2021, which was about a 10% drop from last year. Even though it dropped, it ranks as the 5th best-selling year for Japanese hardware sales for a single platform. Last year was number 3. If you're curious, the piece of hardware that sold the most ever in a calendar year is, of course, the Nintendo DS. 8.3 million in 2006. Insane. It will likely never be replicated again. We're definitely past the days of $100 hardware. For software, Monster Hunter Rise was the best-selling game at retail with 2.35 million. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are close with 2.31 million, so it should pass Rise sooner than later. Both Sword and Shield and BDSP have sold incredibly well in Japan, so I'm looking forward to seeing how Arceus fares. I imagine it will do better than every spin-off, but can it come close to BDSP? It's an uphill battle. But it is pulling from Monster Hunter and Breath of the Wild, so the ingredients at least appeal to the Japanese player base. Third place goes to Momotaro Dentetsu, the breakout hit from 2020. Honestly, it's insane that this game has sold millions of copies only in Japan. That type of thing never happens anymore. I'm trying to think of the last Japanese game that sold over 1 million in Japan with no Western release, and honestly, nothing is coming up. Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury and Ring Fit Adventure round out the top 5. So yes, Switch continues to dominate in both software and hardware. PS5 is still having major stock issues in Japan. It did manage to sell 1 million units in Japan in 2021, but it certainly doesn't feel like it. Only recently have I seen stores actually advertise they have stock. It's mostly been regulated to lotteries, or you need to sign up for a store's credit card to even have a chance to buy one. It's been heavily scalped, both to flip for a higher price in Japan and abroad. The big mystery has been, where are these PS5s going? Is it China? Other parts of Asia? Recently, an American on Reddit posted that his new console had Japanese writing on the box, because obviously it was scalped in Japan and sold to the West. There have been a lot of photo evidence from blogs and users on Twitter where they see people meet up and drop off big camera bags with the PS5 inside. These photos are pretty nuts. It just shows one person standing around with 10 bags filled with PS5s. There's an even crazier photo of a small company in Japan with stacks of PS5s outside their office, ready to flip. This is incredibly frustrating to PlayStation fans in Japan who actually want to buy one to play. I mean, think of a kid who asked for a PS5 for Christmas. Unless you pay double price on Mercari or something, you aren't getting it unless you are incredibly lucky with lotteries. Since so many PS5s are seemingly going overseas, it's having a major effect on software sales. We've had numerous weeks where the top 30 best-selling games of the week are all from one console, which has previously been unprecedented. Granted, I also think the PS5 has had a fairly weak software lineup. Maybe weak is too harsh, since games like Returnal, Ratchet & Clank, and Deathloop get a lot of praise, but let's just say inconsistent. And the lineup is not really appealing to Japanese gamers. With Final Fantasy XVI getting delayed, it's hard to say what will be the next big PS5 game in Japan. Maybe Elden Ring, but even that is cross-gen. Switch's 2022 should be very interesting. Will the hardware sales continue to decline? Have we reached the ultimate saturation point? Switch 2 in 2023 isn't a wild proposition. I'm also wondering if Switch gets a price cut this year. It's pretty wild that it's kept the same price for 5 years now, though the Lite is there as a cheaper option. I expect big software debuts for Switch games in 2022. Splatoon 3 could have the best opening week in Japanese history and cruise from there. And of course, Nintendogs. We gotta get Nintendogs this year. Alright, let's wrap up the news. Now for my discussion with Graceon about Pokemon card shopping in Tokyo. Alright, our feature this week is Pokemon card shopping in Tokyo and Japan. But I'm not alone this time. I have a special guest. So guest, please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Grace and I go by Graceon. Online, I'm a Pokemon card collector based in Japan. I'm actually based in Yokohama. I do say Tokyo on my thing, but I am based in Yokohama and I've lived in Japan for about 6 years now, and the Tokyo area only for like a couple of years and the other 4-ish in the Kansai, Osaka area. So I've been a little bit here and there all over Japan. And big Pokemon fan, Pokemon card collector, and I love to share my collection online and share all the new products. I like to put little updates out as well about like what's coming out, and people are always like, oh my gosh, what is this? I can't read this. Yeah, a lot of people seem to like not be able to read it, which is fair enough, so it's in Japanese, so I try and translate some things as well for people. And Pokemon.
Yeah, I'm a very casual Pokemon card collector, so I thought I need an expert. So I thought, I need Graceon to help me out here.
Oh, I can't say I'm an expert, but I would definitely give you as much as I know and as good as I can.
Excellent. Let's start with, how did you get into collecting Pokemon cards?
That's the big question. Well, when I was little, I think I must have been about 8 or 9 years old when Pokemon first came out. Oh no, it must have been a little bit older than that. I'm not that old. I'm still old, but I'm not that old.
Right.
So my brother had these Pokemon cards, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. And then I got more into the Pokemon cards than he did. This was like original base set. This was like fighting over a Charizard at 10 years old, kind of into Pokemon cards. And I'm from the UK, so I think we were maybe like a year behind Japan when it sort of came to the West Pokemon. And it was that sort of big boom time where, you know, the playground was full of Pokemon cards and people fighting for them and all of that stuff. And yeah, and my love of Pokemon just never really went away. I did have a break from collecting Pokemon cards when I first came to Japan, which sounds a bit counterintuitive, but it was more to do with money than anything else. So making a big move to Japan, I didn't really have any money. And I was just sort of collecting little Pokemon items. So this was sort of Sun and Moon era. And I couldn't really afford to be like getting back into card collecting. So I was sort of admiring it from afar again at that stage. And so I had been collecting back in the UK and I was like, oh, I could get into Japanese cards. Now I'm in Japan. And I just, as an English teacher at that stage, I was not getting paid enough to be getting into Pokemon cards in a serious way. So I sort of decided to, until I was more financially stable, to get back into that. And then the Sword and Shield era came and I was more financially stable. And I was like, you know what? I can do this. I can become a serious collector again. I can go back to my Pokemon roots that I had in the UK and enjoy collecting properly again, and just never went back.
I also had a similar journey where, suddenly I got some money, so why not spend it on Pokemon cards?
Exactly. Why not? Why not? If you have money, why not just make it rain Pokemon cards? If it brings you joy, I don't see why not. And only if it's not like financially troubling to you. If it's a financial trouble, if it's a financial strain, I do not recommend Pokemon cards at all. Like, they're not, if you want to collect them, they are absolutely not an investment. Unless you're planning on selling them, in which case they can be, and you need to think carefully about what you're buying. But if you're just buying to collect and thinking in the future I can get money off this, not necessarily, as we don't know the future of Pokemon. It's the same with anything you don't know about, like NFTs. Are they going to be worth anything in the future? You can't say yes they are. So as an investment, questionable. But as a collector, enjoy it, love it, do your thing.
So what would you say is the major difference in terms of quality or appearance between Western and Japanese Pokemon cards?
That's a very good question. Obviously, language. And that's, I think that's a big stopper for some people who want to collect Pokemon cards, Japanese Pokemon cards, is they can't read them. They can't sort of do anything with them. For me, here, because I like to play the game as well and play in tournaments, I can't collect English cards because I can't use them. It's not like legal to use cards from other languages in your deck. So even if it's exactly the same card, if it's in another language, you can't use it. So for me, there's that use value as well. And the interesting thing is there's no online trading card game for Pokemon in Japan. So there's no code cards. There's nothing you can put in to play online with your friends. Everything is physical. So for me, having physical cards and being able to collect that is really important for playing the game as well. Obviously, due to COVID, I haven't played as much as I would like to, sadly, but that's sort of a big difference when it comes to the mechanics of the card. And then obviously there's quality. Now, I am a big advocate for the quality of Japanese cards, and a lot of other people are, and you can see the difference on how good quality the Japanese cards are. And sometimes I see on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, the English miscuts and the English like quality. So some of that is a little bit painful to look at. But I can say I've never had a horribly miscut Japanese card. I've had some like a little bit off center, but like I've never had one that's like half of a Pikachu and half of a Jigglypuff, which I have seen in English, and I'm like, how did that even get through the printer? How did that get through quality control? But Japanese, it won't get through quality control. It just won't. So the quality is a lot higher.
I think that's a very common sentiment. And especially for me, there's a big gap between my collecting. but I can tell the Japanese cards, they definitely look different and they definitely have a different sheen to them.
Absolutely. And there's one thing I will say, which sort of like, whenever I mention this, people are like, oh yeah, the smell. So English cards have a smell. They smell cardboardy. And Japanese cards do not. And
Really?
I don't know why, but maybe I'm very sensitive to like smells and sounds and things. I'm a little bit like oversensitive kind of person. And when I open a pack of English cards, I'm like, these smell like cards. But I don't smell anything when I open a Japanese pack of cards. And that is the weirdest thing. And once you notice it, you never unnotice it.
So in the West, booster packs are 10 cards, but in Japan, they're typically 5 cards, but they're cheaper. So do you prefer the Western or Japanese style of Pokemon booster packs?
Ooh, this is another big difference as well. So in a booster box for English, you don't know what you're getting at all. You could get no super rare cards, no hyper rare cards, just like a box of sadness that cost you $100.
Right.
Or in Japan, you definitely always get a super rare, a hyper rare, or an ultra rare card. It is set in every box. And some have had 2. Like, it's happened once or twice where I've got like 2 super rares in one box, but you are guaranteed 1. I mean, it might be a horrible card. It might be some trainer that you hate in a rainbow sheen that you're just like, oh God, why? But it is guaranteed in the box, whereas English, it's not guaranteed. So I prefer that Japanese sort of guarantee. And I do prefer that there are only like 5 cards in a pack. I don't know, it feels a little bit more like do. You can get through them very fast.
Right.
And I don't know, it's something nice. It's cheaper. I've got a little pack of Pokemon cards. I can go to the convenience store, pick some up, and I'm like, oh, I've just got a few little cards to enjoy. I don't need to like spend money to get a pack of Pokemon cards because they're so cheap. They're only maybe like $1. I think they're about 135 yen-ish for a standard set. And, you know, there you go. I've got some Pokemon cards to take home. Great. And it didn't cost me a lot. And I don't have a lot of junk that I don't want so much.
They're definitely like an easier impulse buy in Japan than in the West.
Yes, very much so. You see them like on the other side of the counter of the convenience store and you're like, yeah, get me a pack of those Pokemon cards as well as my coffee. Yeah, bring them on.
Is there a specific Japanese exclusive card that you will really like?
That is another big difference, isn't it, between English and Japanese, is the exclusive cards. I really love the Pokemon Center exclusives. So there was a recent one when the Kanazawa opened and it's got Pikachu. It's got Pikachu in a kimono and some beautiful design on it. And that's only when a Pokemon Center opens, those exclusive cards given out. And they're given out for free. How great is that? And the Osaka one has, so I did used to live in Osaka, and it has some Manzai characters, some Pikachu doing Manzai. Manzai is a very famous comedy in Osaka. Right. So they're really so regional to the area, and they're well thought out. And I just think they're so fun.
Yeah, especially those Pokemon Center cards. I get them and I never realize it when I go in there. Suddenly I'll get a card and be like, oh, here's a rare card that I never expected. Thank you.
I love the Pokemon Centers here because you never know if you're going to get something free or not. Sometimes they like just don't announce that they're doing a like free sticker campaign or a free card campaign, and you'll just come in and you'll be like, oh my God, free card, free stuff. Thank you.
So like I mentioned earlier before, you have a Pokemon card themed Instagram.
I do.
What inspired you to create your Instagram account?
Really, well, I was collecting for a little while before that, and I was putting some of the content on my like regular Instagram, and my friends were like, you know, your Instagram's becoming a bit Pokemon, Grace, and this is supposed to be for like fashion and other stuff. And I'm like, all right, I think I'll have to move it all over to its own like space. And it's very funny because I've got maybe like 2,500 followers on my Pokemon Instagram, but about 500 on my regular Instagram. So the Pokemon one really sort of went off on its own and took off. And I kind of prefer making content for the Pokemon one now because there's such a community to it. And I love reading people's comments, and I love talking with people about collecting and people getting excited, and you can get excited together. And even though you're thousands of miles away, it definitely feels more together on Instagram.
Yeah, that's true. So what are some of the challenges you've had when it comes to maintaining a Pokemon card Instagram account?
Maintaining. It's just like maybe like putting out content almost every day. That sounds like a lot. But if you're just taking a picture of a Pokemon card, and sometimes I'm very lazy with it, you can very easily put out Pokemon content every day, especially in Japan. Because here, you can go to the supermarket and a piece of bread will have a flippin' Pikachu on it. Like, it's very easy to make Pokemon content. And for me, I feel like there's not a lot of English-speaking people making Pokemon content in Japan. And I feel like I want to show those things and share them with the world, because there's a lot of Japanese accounts that do it, but they don't speak English and they don't really want English people, not English people specifically, but English speaking or foreign people following them because they don't understand the comments and it makes them a bit stressed. Because I was talking to one of the other girls I know who has a Pokemon Instagram. She's like, oh, all these foreigners followed me and then they were asking me questions and I couldn't answer any of them and I blocked them all. Bless her. It just stressed her the heck out. So I feel like it's nice to be able to sort of give back to the community in that way and show things. Maybe I shouldn't talk too negatively because I do love my Instagram, but sometimes it does attract people who are like, I want to buy this off you, get this for me, do this for me. And then I never say that I'm going to get things for you or do things for you.
Right.
But some people seem to expect that I will. I'm like, I don't know you, stranger on the internet. You haven't even said hello and you've asked for something from me. I think people just assume I don't have a job or a life. And I have both of those things. I'm just posting a picture on Instagram. Please leave me alone.
Let's dig into our main topic, which is shopping for Pokemon cards in Tokyo and Japan. So, Graceon, as somebody who lives in Japan, where do you get your Pokemon cards?
Everywhere. I am only joking, but kind of everywhere. So previously I mentioned about convenience stores. Now, if you're very lucky, your local convenience store will have Pokemon cards, which is great, but you have to just sort of like look behind the counter for them. Or if you're feeling confident, just ask the staff like, do you do Pokemon cards? Because sometimes they do, and that's really great because that means you can just grab a little card pack on your way home or something. But generally, if there's like a big set coming out and I know I need to get it, like I gotta get it. The big ones, obviously the Pokemon Center, but they have a lot of lottery kind of systems going on at the moment. They don't want to overcrowd the stores, which is completely understandable. So you go there, you get a ticket, and you might get in, you might not. That's how the Yokohama's one's doing it at the moment. But they'll always have stock on the releases. It's the Pokemon centers. That's really great. Or the Pokemon stores. They're just very small Pokemon centers. I believe there's the DX in Tokyo. Then there's the Mega Center in Ikebukuro. And there's one in Tokyo Station, which is like in a character lane, which is really, really cute because you've got all these other sort of character goods, Hello Kitty, One Piece, and then right at the end, there's a small Pokemon store. I think those are the big three in Tokyo. And then you've got the Yokohama one, which is only about 40 minutes outside of Tokyo if you're more that way. And Osaka has two within like 5-minute train ride of each other, which I think is absolutely mad. But yeah, Pokemon centers are a good start. But if you're not confident you're going to get on their lottery, and you can obviously shop online for those ones as well, but they only ship to Japan. Yodobashi camera is great. Yodobashi camera has never failed me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you just got to get there early. But I think I remember being like, I don't know, 100th in line once at Yodobashi camera. But they had like 500 boxes. They were like ready for the queue. They were ready. Yodobashi is like always really, really good. And having said Yodobashi, big camera is also all right. They tend not to have quite as much stock, or they'll be a little bit more limiting on their release days. Big camera's also all right. Yodobashi's probably a bit better. And then from that, smaller card shops, I would definitely recommend Card Secret in Ikebukuro. So you've got the Pokemon Center in Ikebukuro anyway. So if you're a Pokemon card fan, you're probably going to go in that area anyway. Right. And a little 5-minute walk out is Card Secret. And it is owned by an Australian guy called Andrew. and he's on Instagram. And honestly, he's the most knowledgeable. I don't know why you're talking to me. You should be talking to Andrew. He's the most knowledgeable man I've ever met on Pokemon in my life. And he runs this store, and he's got Japanese staff, and obviously he speaks English himself as an Australian. And it's all just Pokemon. It's all Pokemon cards, and you're like, oh, I don't know, have you got this specific card? And he's like, I can find that for you. Obviously, it's only in store, but Andrew, he will help you find the card, or like you'll be like, oh, can you just like find this one? If this one comes in, can you tell me next time I come in? And he's like, we'll see what we can do. We'll see what we can do. Like, really, really nice, friendly staff. I'm good friends with one of the girls who works there. We go out and eat parfait together. Like, they're all just lovely people working at Card Secret, so totally recommend them. Other shops, good chain store, Hobby Station. Can't go wrong with the Hobby Station. There's another Ikebukuro, Akihabara, kind of everywhere. Same with Full Comp.
Yes.
They're really good for like, I get a lot of my reservations at Full Comp. They're very good at doing like pay in advance, and you just pick up your box on the day. They're really good at that. What's that? Card Box. That might just be Yokohama, but they're like Umbros with them. They're really cool. They always give me a really, really, really good price when I'm selling my cards. Even if it's got a little bit of damage on it, they'll be like, nah, we'll give you full price for it. It's all right. Really, really nice guys. You can do lots of reservations from them as well. All of these shops I've mentioned, apart from Yodobashi Camera and Big Camera, they all do have a like a battle space as well. So you can bring your decks in and play for free in their space, which is really, really nice as well. And they do tournaments and things if you're an avid card player as well. So I think those are some of my like top shops. But I would say if you're waiting for product, if you want to know when product is coming in, follow them on Twitter. Japan, be like, Twitter is king. Essentially, every time they want you to sell them cards and they have a good price for it, or they have stock coming in, it's immediately gonna go on Twitter before it goes anywhere else. Or you're just very lucky and you walk into the store at exactly the right time that they're selling something. Restocks are usually mentioned on Twitter. So find the shops you want to visit, follow their Twitter, keep a little eye on it while you're out and about. And you never know, they might be like, oh, we're going to start doing reservations for the new set Star Birth right now. And then you go and you're like, no, it's already sold out. I was too late. So you got to keep your eyes on the Twitter.
Have you ever visited some of these Akihabara-based shops, Cherumo or Hareruya too?
Oh, Hareruya is pretty good. I'm not in Akihabara very often because, right, there's a saying, and I don't know if this is just because I'm in Ikebukuro a lot more because I work closer to Ikebukuro than I do to Akihabara. Not in Ikebukuro. I'm not working in Ikebukuro, but that's sort of closer for me to visit. Is Ikebukuro is for girls, Akihabara is for boys. And
that's very true.
It's very, very true. And I'm a girl, so I feel much more comfortable in Ikebukuro because everything in Ikebukuro is designed for girls. So it's all like boys' idols and boys' love and boys everywhere in the shops. But you go to Akihabara and it's like naked anime girls on every wall. And this is designed for men. And Ikebukuro is designed for women. So I do tend to find myself in Ikebukuro much, much more than Akiba.
I've been into the Ikebukuro Animate, the anime store, and that is maybe the nicest smelling place I've been to in Japan because it's only women, so it's only perfume. So it's amazing.
Yes, you do find, like, the smell of the otaku women is fine. Sometimes the smell of the otaku men is questionable. And as much as I do love playing Pokemon cards and tournaments, it's usually me and 9 other men in a 10-person tournament. And some of them, they just need a shower. They just need a shower. Mostly they're fine. And they're very kind and they're nice. And, I haven't met any particular weirdos or anything. I just want to wash some of these men.
What was your first impression when entering a Japanese card shop for the first time?
Ooh, good question. I found it a bit overwhelming, to be honest with you, because there's so many trading card games. There's so many like collectible cards in Japan that you can walk into a shop and it can be, for want of a better phrase, completely naked anime girls cards only.
Right.
And you're like, I just came here for a Pikachu and now I'm really uncomfortable. So you just kind of have to accept that when you go into a card shop, you might not be in the kind of card shop that you want to be in, and just be like, oh, okay, it's not for me. I'm going to walk out again and go to the next card shop in the next building or whatever, because Akihabara has so many. You can just sort of walk in anywhere and there's trading cards. But they tend to be very cramped sorts of spaces. So you have to be aware that, you might have to be a little bit careful with your bag, that you're not knocking anything over as you walk past. And everything is in, like, they call it showcase. So basically it is just like a plastic case. Then they'll unlock the door and say, I want this card, please, to the staff. And they'll be like, wakarimashita. And they'll like open it up and get the card for you and then lock it up again. Because obviously they don't want people just coming in, putting a little card in their bag and walking out. So there's a lot of security involved in it. So I think that can be maybe a little bit overwhelming for someone who isn't so comfortable with Japanese, or if there's a particular card you're looking for. A lot of them cannot be super English friendly, but some of them are. Some of them are pretty good. I've been to a couple in Ikebukuro. Obviously, I said about Card Secret being almost entirely English. But Hobby Station have always been very like friendly. I can speak Japanese, but I came with a friend who didn't have any Japanese, and he was absolutely fine. He was very comfortable in Hobby Station as well. So it does depend on the shop, but they will welcome foreign people as well. It's not like, oh, no foreigners in my shop. They just might be a little bit like, oh my god, I can't speak English. This one, oh, okay, yeah. They'll try their best either way, but try not to be too overwhelmed if you don't have any Japanese ability.
Recently in Japan, there's been kind of a Pokemon card shortage.
Yes.
When did you first notice this, and do you think it will improve anytime soon?
That's a very good question. So this time last year, it sort of started around Matchless Fighters, which was, I believe that was kind of March time. Ichigeki Rengeki was a bit questionable as well with supply, and that was January last year. So I think it was really due to COVID more than anything, because a lot of the Pokemon centers had to start doing like timed entry to try and reduce numbers, and then they couldn't make enough product because they were having to do it as lottery online. And suddenly they found, because people can't get into the stores to get it, everybody wanted to buy it online, and then they couldn't make enough product online. And obviously a lot of Western people want to buy Japanese product because they can't get English product. So suddenly they're deciding, I want to get Japanese product. It's cheaper, quality is better. I can get this card before it's released in English. Great, I'll get Japanese because I can't find English. And then all these online orders start happening for the Pokemon Center, and they can't keep up. So there's no product in Japan because it's all going overseas. And there's nowhere to go in shops to get it, because everyone tried to get it online, can't get it, rushes to the shop to get it. It's all sold out. Pokemon can't keep up with the printing. And it just ended up being like a desert of Pokemon cards. And especially when about the time of Eevee Heroes was like really bad, because I didn't get anything like online lotteries for that. You couldn't get into the store to get it. I was up at 6 a.m. to go to Yodobashi Camera to get one box because that was the limit. And then you couldn't find it again for months and months and months. It was like gold dust and going for sale online for ridiculous amounts. Like, it was very difficult for a while to find Pokemon cards. But now, like, we had something called a state of emergency. I don't know how much your listeners know about state of emergency, but once that was lifted, everything could open properly, and they really upped production, especially for this latest set, VMAX Climax. it's just product everywhere again. And it's so nice to see. And people can get out to the shops and get the physical product. And it's 3 boxes per person. Like, those sorts of numbers were unimaginable 6 months ago. Absolutely crazy to see now, which is really, really nice to be able to get product again. But some sets just never got reprinted. Matchless Fighters never got reprinted. The one with Rayquaza, which name I've completely forgotten now. It'll come back to me.
Skystream or something like that?
Skystream, that's it. Yeah, because there's Towering Perfection and Skystream. Nobody wants Towering Perfection. That's
Right.
even available on the Pokemon Center online website. Nobody wants it.
It doesn't have Rayquaza, so why would you want to buy it?
It doesn't have exactly. But yeah, the Rayquaza one barely got reprinted, and I don't think they're going to print it again. So some things they were just like, we have to keep the demand on certain products. So 2 years ago, 2020, I could go into the Pokemon Center and get one box if I wanted of every set that had been out in the past year. No problem. Product for days. Make your own Pokemon cards. Right. And last year was difficult for collectors. And I did like it when there was more product because there's this scarcity mentality that, like, if I see a pack of Pokemon cards, I feel more desperate to buy it because I can't get it usually. Sometimes I'm not even sure if I want it. Like, it's just that, it's so hard to find, I need to get it. But now, because there is product, I can go into the Pokemon Center and think, I'm not buying any Pokemon cards today. I'm just having a look around because there's no scarcity feeling when I see the cards.
I remember, especially last year, I think that was like the peak of it being you couldn't buy it unless you got into a lottery. And I noticed a lot of smaller shops, they even had in their booster section, they had a special area only for elementary school children.
Yes.
If you're a kid, you want to just buy some Pokemon cards. But of course, a lot of the hardcore fans who are like online shopping, they get the cards for, kids to even have a chance. I've noticed that there's definitely been a big change in terms of like stock, but it seems to be getting much better.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do remember you were talking about kids. There was a Yunagaba promo, just like a Pikachu drawn like, it's really funny promo. Like, I think it's really cute. But it was given out free when you spent over 1,000 yen at the Pokemon Center. And there was this massive long line in Yokohama, and just for this promo. And I was like, this is a bit mental. And when the doors opened, the idea of the line just went out the window and everybody rushed to get in. I've never seen Japanese people act like that in my life. If you've ever been to Japan, people listening, Japanese people are the politest people you'll ever meet, and they respect the line. They respect the line.
Yes.
But I've never seen, it was like Black Friday or something. It was a national holiday when this came out, so there were lots of children in the line as well who were just excited to get a Pokemon card. And just remember this one child going, "Kawaii-yo, kawaii-yo," and started crying like, it's so scary, it's so scary. And I just think that's just not what Pokemon should be. It shouldn't be a scary experience for children. I really felt for this little boy who was just like, "Oh, kawaii-yo, it's so scary." It's just really sort of quite sad to see, to be honest. Like, adults are doing this. And I just looked around, I was like, shaking my head.
What are you looking forward to in regards to Pokemon cards in 2022?
In 2022. Well, I'm a big Glaceon fan. My name is Graceon. It's like a double pun because Japanese people can't pronounce the LR sound. So I thought that was quite funny. And when you say that to Japanese people, they're like, naruhodo ne. Like, I get it. But they don't seem, it's not as funny to them as it is to me.
Right.
And there's a Glaceon special Star Birth set coming out, and I'm very excited for that because my favorite evolution rarely gets its own like special thing, so I'm really excited for that. But I'm not really sure. I'm just sort of interested to see where it's going because they're doing the new V-Star rather than V-Max, so I'm really interested to see how that mechanic is going to work when you play the game. And yeah, just excited to see the kind of new direction that they're kind of going in this year.
Do you think there's any chance of a Glaceon V-Union?
I hope so. I just want all the Glaceons. But then again, I don't want any expensive Glaceons.
Right.
I'm a cheap kind of person. I don't want to pay overprice for the card that I love. That would be my biggest advice when it comes to collecting Pokemon cards. Collect a weird Pokemon. Collect a Pokemon that nobody cares about, and then all the cards you collect will be cheap.
Right.
If you're out there like, I'm going to collect all the Pikachus or I'm going to collect all the Eevees, well, then you have made a mistake, sir, for your bank account. Collect a weird Pokemon.
Don't be a Charizard fan for sure.
Oh, God. Charizard fan. Like, if you're like, I'm going to collect all the Charizards, just say goodbye to all your money ever. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it. It's not possible. Don't do the thing. Don't do the thing.
Final question. I think I might know the answer, but what is your favorite Pokemon?
Maybe Glaceon. Now, I always say Glaceon. It's a good pun on my name as well. And I do love Glaceon. It is really cute. And then sometimes I really like Dedenne as well. It's the like little mouse Pokemon. It's really cute. I like a Pikachu. I like really cute Pokemon. Anything that's like, oh, I just want to squish that. I love it. But I'd probably have to say Glaceon and keep on brand. Glaceon all the way, 100% Glaceon. Never divert from the path of Glaceon.
Thank you very much for joining me today, Graceon. You are an amazing guest, I have to say. And you definitely know more about Pokemon cards than anyone I know. So hopefully a lot of people who are coming to Japan for the first time, they can use your advice for Pokemon card shopping.
I hope so. And really enjoy it and just go for it. And if you are coming to Japan for the first time, there's so much to enjoy and there's so much to do. And check out any special Pokemon events that might be happening. Sometimes there's like pop-up shops or that kind of thing, which are really exciting to go to as well, or events. There was a Pokemon Illumination event last year, which looked amazing, and I didn't get a chance to go, and I'm kicking myself forever for not going. But just check out any Pokemon events that might be going on as well if you're interested in Pokemon, because, wow, there's a whole world in Japan. There's a whole world of Pokemon.
So if people want to find more of you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram. I am Graceon Pokemon. And if it's easier to understand, it's Grace on Pokemon. So some people have called me Grace on Pokemon. I'm like, that's also fine if that's how you read that. But it is supposed to be Graceon Pokemon. But if you want to be Grace on Pokemon, I'm chill with that. I'm chill.
Yes, and I'll definitely link to all these social media accounts in the podcast description. So listeners, check it out there. Now for the Japanese phrase of the week. This week's phrase is mugon gildo. Mugon gildo. It literally translates to silent guild or mute guild. This refers to a guild in an online game that doesn't speak or rarely communicates with each other. This is mostly seen as a bad thing, especially since you need pretty steady communication and cooperation if you want to succeed. Though some people do prefer these types of guilds, as there might be pressure in more active guilds to communicate every day, or else you'll get kicked out. So mugon guilds suit introverts, especially in games where the guild functions are more async than, say, an MMO guild. A lot of mobile gacha games have some sort of guild system where a lot of the benefits are passive, so you just join some guild and hope for the best. There's a lot of discussion online about these types of groups, and most of it is negative, so I think most people don't prefer this type of guild. Once again, mugon gildo. Okay, the Japanese tweet of the week. I guess it should be Pokemon related, right? I'm picking one from Moa151, who posted a great video of snow falling on the Pokemon Legends Arceus statue right outside of Parco Shibuya. It snowed quite a bit last week in Tokyo, which is a fairly rare sight. Of course, people are rushing out to famous Tokyo landmarks to capture it in the snow, and there's no shortage of great places to photograph in Tokyo. Moa happened to be in Shibuya and nabbed a wonderful video of snow falling on statues of Pikachu, Rowlet, Cyndaquil, and Oshawott. Very charming, so check out the link in the description. I don't have any reader mail to feature this week, but if you want, you can write in at tokyogamelife@gmail.com. That's all this time around. Once again, thanks to Graceon for sharing her Pokemon card knowledge. Please follow her at Graceon Pokemon on Instagram. I will link it in the description too. Thank you as always for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. I would really appreciate a 5-star review on Spotify. Wink, wink. I also have a YouTube channel, and I am on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, so follow me there by searching for Tokyo Game Life. I post stuff every day on Twitter and Instagram, so check it out. Also, check out my site, tokyogamelife.com, for transcripts and photos. The next episode will be Sunday, January 30th, and I will have had some time with Pokemon Legends Arceus, so let's see how my preview matches the real deal. Alright, see you next time. Mata ne!